All right, good morning. The Committee on Parole is reconvening. We're at the Louisiana Correctional Institute for Women. The time is 9:40 a.m. It is June 4th, 2024. My name is Cheryl Renatza, serving as chairman today. My colleagues on the panel seated to my left is Mrs. Ledoux, and to my right is Mrs. Stapleton. We are at DOC headquarters in Baton Rouge. I'd like to get the staff at the women's prison, please introduce yourself for the record.
Okay, Morgan LeBlanc, Deputy Warden at LCIW.
Tara P., ARDC Manager. Afton Gowdy, ARDC Supervisor.
Introduce yourself.
Lieutenant Smith.
That's everybody?
That's everybody.
Good. Thanks for accommodating us today. And we have Ms. Littlefield. Is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number, please.
Michelle Littlefield, 496-421.
All right, Ms. Littlefield, let me acknowledge the folks who are here with us in Baton Rouge. Well, on Zoom, we have, let's see, I believe, Dr. Marco Salvaggio from Tulane, James Redmond, your father, Sarita Steib from the Reentry Program, Tracy Pratt from Operation Restoration, and Ms. Steib, are you representing Ms. Littlefield?
No, I'm not, Ms. Renata. I'm the president and CEO of Operation Restoration.
Okay. Well, all the folks who I just interviewed indicated they want to speak. Is any one of you counsel for Ms. Littlefield? No? Okay. Here with us also at headquarters, we have representing the victim, Chris O'Brien and Joseph O'Brien. We also have a representative from the district attorney, the Butch Wilson from the 22nd Judicial District Court's District Attorney's Office. Welcome, everybody. The way the process will work, Ms. Littlefield, I'm going to read some identifying information into the record. Ask you to confirm it, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Ledoux. Your case has been assigned to her. She'll take the lead on the interview questions. Once we've completed our questions, we'll hear from Warden Law, and then we'll hear from the folks who've indicated they'd like to speak today. You'll be allowed to make a statement before we ask for the DA's input. You understand that process?
Yes, ma'am.
So, Michelle Littlefield, you're classified as a first felony offender. You're currently serving a 30-year sentence. You were sentenced June 15th, 2005. 2 counts of molestation of a juvenile. You received 15 years on each of those sentences running consecutively. Also, 2 counts of cruelty to juveniles, 2 counts, 10 years on each of those running concurrent with the 15-year consecutive sentences. Your parole eligibility date was February 4th, 2013. You are not eligible to earn good time, and you have a full term date, February 8th, 2033. Is all that accurate information?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you answer any questions Ms. Ledoux may have?
Good morning, Ms. Littlefield.
Yes, ma'am.
How old were you when this crime was committed?
31.
31 years old. Had you, were you or had you been?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? You broke up a little bit.
Okay. Were you or had you been married at the point that this crime was committed?
No, ma'am. Well, I was divorced.
Okay. You had 3 sons. Were they by your husband? Were they by the same person or?
No, ma'am.
So how many fathers were there?
3.
Okay. And were any of them your ex-husbands?
Yes, ma'am. My middle son, Jesse.
Okay. What was your relationship with your co-defendant? What was the relationship?
He was I employed him to watch the children while I went to school and worked full time. And he was like responsible for any household stuff that needed to be done, repairs and the like.
How did you choose him for that position? Is this somebody that you knew and had knowledge of their character, or how did you choose this person?
My mother-in-law referred him to me. She knew him and his family, had watched him grow up and knew he was good with his siblings, children, his nieces and nephews, the neighborhood kids that were in that area. So she referred him to me.
I will say, for the record, reading your the arrest report was very, very difficult.
The parole hearing took place at the Louisiana Correctional Institute for Women. Michelle Littlefield is serving a 30-year sentence for crimes involving her children. The board reviewed her record, sentence details, and eligibility before questioning began.
For me.
Yes, ma'am.
How long did the alleged or the crime, how long did these crimes take place? Over a period of months?
I believe it was like a 10-month time period, ma'am.
I noticed that you, have you ever appealed your case? You've appealed your case, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So do you maintain your innocence to this day, or?
I maintain the fact that I did not see anything, but that does not release me from the culpability. Because at the end of the day, it was my bad decision to bring this person into my home and not bother to check when I was told, oh, everything is fine. Everything is fine. And then when I did see my kids and, hey, how's it going, guys? Like on a day off, and they didn't say anything. It was because, I'm sorry.
I have to interrupt, but they did admit that you knew.
Again, I did not know. Had I have known, I would have immediately intervened, removed them from the house and gone to the nearest law enforcement, police station, fire department, whoever, because I believe my children when they say that happened.
Can you tell me where your children are today?
I know where my oldest is, Justin, but Jesse and Thomas, I don't know where they are at.
And Justin is residing with your father, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sure we're going to hear more in a little bit about your programs while you've been incarcerated. You have availed yourself of lengthy educational programs. So what were you going to college or school for when you left your children?
Carpentry, woodworking, furniture making, cabinet making.
So while they were being cared for by this man, that's the program you were going for?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So had you ever had long-term employment? Apparently you were working. What kind of employment did you have?
I worked at Walmart, ma'am. I was a cashier and also a stocking employee.
So when you say, when I saw my sons, I asked them how it was going. You didn't see them very often while you were working, caring for them?
No, ma'am. I had to be at school for 7 a.m., got out of school at 3, had to be to work for 5 p.m., and did not get off until 1 o'clock in the morning.
we have a lot of people who want to speak in support and opposition, and I'll go ahead and Ms. Renat to retain my questioning if I need to later. Is that okay? Sure. Okay.
Let me just ask a couple of questions, Ms. Littlefield. I noticed in your criminal history in 1992, there was an arrest in Nevada for child abuse. Can you explain that?
Yes, ma'am. My, at the time, boyfriend and I had an argument. There was a gun in his nightstand that he had a permit for. The clip for the gun was in the dresser. When the DA reviewed the case, he said that that it never should have gone that far, and he dismissed all charges.
Okay. And then I have 1997, there was a domestic violence arrest in Nevada also.
My mother and I had gotten into an argument, which is how I found out I had a warrant for a traffic ticket that I thought I had paid, but did not. And that's where that arrest stemmed from.
Domestic violence?
I don't understand where that came from. My mother and I were in an argument, just a typical mother-daughter argument.
So just one more thing. You indicated to Ms. Ledoux that you believe that if your children said these things happened to them, that it did in fact happen to you.
Yes, ma'am. I fully believe them when they say these horrendous acts happen to them.
All right. Well, I just said that because I wanted to let you know that our record indicates that one of your children, when they were being interviewed on more than one occasion by folks who were investigating this crime, said that his mother, Michelle Littlefield, was present and witnessed these offenses.
Littlefield admitted she made bad decisions, but denied ever witnessing the abuse. She claimed that if she had known, she would have immediately called authorities. However, investigators stated that one child reported she was present during the crimes.
She didn't stop Bert and continued to allow Bert to access him, allowing Bert to reoffend. He noted she saw it every time.
I will maintain again that no, I was never there. Had I have been there, I'd have picked up the phone and dialed 911. I'd have grabbed the children and gotten them out of there and brought them immediately to the nearest law enforcement, police station, fire department, whoever I could access first to report this.
Thank you. Any questions, Ms. Stokely?
Yeah, just to continue on, I'd seen the same things that Chairman Renata saw. Just to continue on with the testimony that the children gave to the Child Advocacy Center, but immediately after they moved in with foster parents. It's not unusual for children to be in an environment where they feel like they're not going to be out of their environment. If you were to say, is everything fine, for a child to be fearful of telling the truth, because quite often they fear retaliation from that very person that's doing harm to them. So it says here, after moving in with their foster parents, the children described physical and sexual abuse by Stockstill, some of which took place in the defendant's presence and in her presence. The children also said to the foster parents that episodes of physical abuse committed against them by the defendant, that you were there and that you laughed about it. So their story is very different from yours.
Yes, ma'am. Again, I would never laugh at that. That would be beyond the most cruel thing.
Okay, well, just, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm like Ms. Ledoux. The things that happened to these children were horrendous.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all I have to say.
I think that for now concludes our questions. Warden LeBlanc, can you tell us anything about Ms. Littlefield?
To report, since she's been here at LCIW, she's been here about 17 years. She hasn't had any write-ups since 2011, which is almost 13 years report-free. And only in that time period where she did have write-ups, it was about 6 write-ups. With all of her documentation, she's attended a lot of classes while she was here. And it also shows on the risk need assessment score that she is low on that. So she has been busy, at least doing classes and whatnot while she's been here.
Good, thank you. All right, we'll hear from the folks who want to speak in support first. We'll hear first from, we'd like to hear from Mr. Redmond, Ms. Littlefield's father. Mr. Redmond. Is he still with us? Is Mr. Redmond? Mr. Redmond, are you there with us? He was there. He wasn't.
Yeah, now can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can. We can't see you, but we can hear you. We'd like to hear what you'd like us to know about Miss Michelle.
Well, it's while she's been there, she has attended many different classes, some of which were too difficult for me to even understand. But it was like a kid coming home to their parents with a report card. She was always anxious to tell me her grades. And I've always enjoyed her telling me that, oh, I got 97%. I got in the 90s. And so she was always telling me about her scores and her grades.
Great, thank you. Thank you, sir. Moving on, Ms. Stodd, could we hear from you now, please?
Good morning, Ms. Renata and the board. I apologize about not being on camera. My phone is not letting me get on, but I just wanted to take an opportunity and say over the last 7 years, Michelle Littlefield is in cohort 1 of our college and prison program at the Louisiana Correctional Institute for Women. I started Operation Restoration 8 years ago after my own experience for incarceration. I went to prison at the age of 19 and was released at 29. And just realized there weren't any services and resources available for women who have been incarcerated. Over the last 3 years, we've served about 2,300 women by providing over 17,000 services across Louisiana and a few other states. And the thing that I've consistently saw from Michelle in our interactions during her time in the program is that she does accept responsibility for not protecting her children. In this instance, I think that she has taken tremendous steps toward becoming a better person and focusing on the things that matter, which is changing who she is during her lengthy incarceration. I do recommend her aid and help her to reenter society successfully, but by providing whatever services that she may need. We can support with housing, food assistance, supporting her to continue her education once she is released, as well as a multitude of other things, access to counseling and healthcare, and all of the things that a person needs once they're released to maintain becoming a contributing member of society.
Right, and thank you very much for the work that you do and for being here to speak with us this morning. Now with Operation Restoration, we'd like to hear from Tracy Pratt. Should I step up to you? Good
morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Tracy Pratt. I'm the Higher Education Administrator at Operation Restoration. So I work at LCIW. I work directly with Ms. Littlefield, and I work directly with Dr. Marco Savaggio, who's the director for the tutoring program. and with Sarita, of course, who is my boss. So I just want to point out that we have an incredibly successful higher education program. Our students are completing bachelor's degrees. Several of them have been released. 5 of them are still continuing their studies. And one of them, who was released just several months ago on parole, is going to be our very first graduate. She's actually been able to accelerate her courses since she has gotten out. All of our students have above average GPAs. And then, of course, with OR, we're going to be able to provide extensive wraparound services for Ms. Littlefield, and I'm sure she's going to be just as successful as all of our other students. I also wanted to bring this in. There's a task force recently with a resolution in the House of Representatives that has permitted the study of education in higher education in prisons, education in general, but they specifically talk about it, and they have noticed that here in Louisiana, whereas a college education reduces recidivism by 27.7% and increases employment by 10.5% over 3 years. And so with the reinstatement of Pell programs, I really feel like Michelle is going to be just another wonderful example of success upon reentry, and we are here to support her in all of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you much. Now we'll hear from opposition. Could we hear from Mr. Chris O'Brien? So if you want.
You want to wait just a second?
Yeah, just wait just a second. In fact, if you want to just step aside.
Yeah,
there you go. And then we'll take it from there. You're fine.
you're fine right here.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. We met Michelle Littlefield and her sons when we became foster parents. We fostered her oldest, Justin, for 1 day, her middle son, Jesse, for several years, and her youngest, then Thomas, later Dylan, for several years. These are the boys when they first came to us. This is Dylan. By this time that you see in this picture, he had already been raped and sodomized multiple times by multiple men in the presence of and with the encouragement of Michelle Littlefield. This is her son, Jesse. He was with us for multiple years. By the time you see him in this picture, he had been raped, sodomized, had played a game called where Bert, excuse the language, ladies and gentlemen, but shit in his eye with the permission and encouragement of Michelle Littlefield. That had already happened to him at this age when you see him in this picture. We were told the boys had been neglected. Details of this came out in the court hearings that followed. The youngest was found wandering the streets in a very dirty diaper. We thought that was horrible, and little did we know that this was nothing compared to the horror that was to come. The boys' fits of anger became more frequent and violent the older they got. The oldest was very smart and defended Michelle completely. Both younger boys said they saw him and Michelle having sex. When I asked the social worker, how is that even physically possible in a boy that young, they assured me it was possible, and I didn't want to hear any more after that. The boys reported early on that Michelle hit them, punched them, and beat them. They told about her swinging knives around, cutting them with these knives, threatening them with these knives. Jesse had a burn scar on his arm that he showed me, and he said Michelle used a cigarette to burn him on his arm. He had frequent violent outbursts at school and at her home. The beginning of the horror stories were when he said Bert stuck a stick in his butt, it hurt, and the white stuff came out. Well, I knew enough to know what that meant. CPS was informed immediately, and this started a horror tale of what came out. The boys mimicked sex on a toy. They pumped a toy to show me what Bert had done to them. They chose, by the way, to call him Michelle rather than Mom. Dylan eventually told me that he was raped and sodomized by Bert and by Dewey Lee and other men in the presence of and with the permission of Michelle. He said Michelle cheered on the rapist while they were raping her children. Dylan told me that he often ate pet food because he was not fed. He told me about being bent over in the living room in front of a dusty TV. He could see Bert's reflection on the TV screen behind him, raping him. He looked down as the blood dripped off of his penis. Michelle was in the room encouraging Bert to continue.
Supporters from Operation Restoration spoke on her behalf. They highlighted her education, rehabilitation programs, and over a decade without disciplinary reports. They argued she had changed and was prepared to re-enter society.
How can you know this and still have the same view of the world? My husband and I were unable to tell our families and friends the horrors that these boys told us. Because when we told anybody, they just couldn't hear it anymore. They said, "Stop, I can't even listen to this anymore." The boys reported Bert as a frequent rapist. Michelle initially claimed she did not even know anyone named Bert. She protected the man that had repeatedly raped her boys. It was discovered that she had been arrested for a minor marijuana charge with Bert Stockstill, so she did know him despite her denial. He was her roommate. The boys described being raped and beaten by Bert and by Dewey Lee and others with Michelle present. She cheered on grown men while they anally raped her boys who were younger than 7 or 3. She brought home multiple men to have sex with them. Boys did not know who these men were or how Michelle knew them. They described multiple men coming to their home, raping them. They described getting off of the school bus to find strange men waiting at their home to rape them on multiple occasions. Eventually, they described being placed in a ring of white powder with candles all around. They described a dark room and people in robes with hoods all around. They were raped at these gatherings. The boys talked about games with excrement they were forced to play. The descriptions were graphic and disgusting. Were hard to hear, of course.
Ms. O'Brien, we did receive your letter and we read it in great detail. That we're past our 3-minute limit. Can you just summarize the rest of what you'd like to say, please?
Boys had a rough life, and Dylan and I had several conversations as an adult where he told me he went to see Michelle in prison, and he said that he talked to her until we got her to cry because that was the only way he could get back at her. He said if he could get to her, he would kill her. He said he had a hard life, that because of the things in his head that he knew he had been through, he found it difficult to go on with his life, and he shot himself in the chest. And he died. He died on October 21st, 2022.
You know what? Thank God for a little time in their life. They had you and your husband to show them a different way and a different type of people.
Thank you.
So,
Yes, we could. It wasn't enough. Multiple psychiatrists, psychiatric, inpatient, not stays for boys. It wasn't enough to fix them.
no,
Couldn't do it.
but they had you for a little while.
They could.
And thank goodness. Thank you for sharing. I know, we know that it's very difficult to come to something like this and to recant, but you know what? To recant what was done is to tell their truth. And it's important that people listen. I do understand where people will say, I can't hear anymore. And they say, you know, they don't want to, but it's the reality that those children live through. So, you know, it's something that people need to know because it exists every day. So thank you for being brave enough to come here and being kind enough to have those children.
Thank you for being here this morning. We're going to ask Ms. Littlefield if she has a statement to make. Ms. Littlefield, is there a brief statement you'd like to make before we turn it over to the DA's office?
Yes, ma'am. At 30 years old, I'd yet again made another bad decision and choice because I didn't know there was other choices out there. In the classes I've taken, such as victim awareness, that it's the victim first and the victim needs to be believed. In classes such as Thinking for a Change, I've learned that there's more than just the one option or two options that you can see in front of you. And there's no way to go back and undo the bad choices and bad decisions that I've made. And I can't, saying I'm sorry means so little because of the horrors that they had to endure that I had no idea about. But what they say happened to them, I will not disbelieve.
Then came emotional testimony from the foster father. He described horrific abuse the children suffered and the long-term trauma they carried. He revealed that one of the sons later died by suicide, leaving the room in silence.
And knowing that they couldn't trust me enough to say, "Mom, help," that tears at me that I wasn't there. I wasn't the mom they deserved. I didn't have the decision and choice making skills and tools that I have now to stop and think, to listen, to look around, to be present with more than just a body to say, "Hey, I'm here," but to actively listen to what's being said, to read body language when nonverbal communication is trying to be made. I don't have any more words. I'm sorry, and at some point in time, I hope that can be believed that I am so very sorry that I didn't pay attention to what was going on, that I wasn't there.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for your remarks. We'd like to hear from the DA's office to close it out for us, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is stunning, but I think everybody in the room, this lady says she didn't do anything. She says she's legally innocent, that these children are lying. She just got up in front of you, and I wrote this down, quote, "I believe my children when they say that happened, but not when they say that she was there for it." She doesn't believe that. I have to take issue with the lady over here from Operation Restoration, which I was not familiar with. She says that Ms. Littlefield accepts responsibility. Her own client says she doesn't. She disagrees with it. She doesn't accept responsibility at all. To listen to her, she wasn't present. The children are lying. Why did she plead guilty and took the 30-year sentence? She's been sitting in prison now for years, and this is what she comes up with to say to this board? I want to thank Ms. O'Brien for being here today, because as a prosecutor who spent a good deal of my career dealing with cases like this, I know how difficult it is to get up here and even read this stuff, much less discuss it and talk about it. I also appreciate your service today too, because I know how difficult it is for you to listen to this. I don't have a whole lot to say to wrap up. These facts and this defendant are depraved. Any decent person would be made sick by them, because these crimes are an assault not only on the victims, but upon decency itself. There isn't much that the district attorney can add factually that isn't described graphically in both the First Circuit opinion and the DPP report and the victim impact statement. One victim is dead of suicide, and in a violent manner which adds insult to the injuries inflicted by the crimes committed here. The other spent years in treatment and now cannot even be found. All sex crimes prosecutors know that the horror for victims doesn't end upon conviction of the offender, and this case is a terrible example. These crimes are evil at a level of cruelty and depravity that is impossible to comprehend. And this defendant, as much as any, deserves to serve the full term of her sentence. Nothing can mitigate what she has done. If you have any inclination to grant parole in this matter, which I don't think you do, but if you do, please ask yourself one question. Could you ever reasonably trust this defendant within a mile of a child. If you have no questions for me, that's all I have.
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming too, Mr. Wilson.
Ms. Littleton, we do have opposition in the record expressed. There was no comment from the sentencing judge. Of course, we've heard from the DA's office, and the sheriff's office in St. Tammany is also opposed. And of course, you've heard the victim opposition today. I think we're prepared to vote. Mrs. Littleton.
For a plethora of reasons, my vote today is to deny parole. I will cite law enforcement opposition, lack of acceptance in the role of the crime and the nature of the crime.
Mrs. Stapleton.
Yes, I agree to deny. That would be my vote. Also, the nature of the crime and law enforcement opposition, district attorney opposition, and then the victim opposition, the parent of one of the children.
My vote today, Ms. Littleton, also is to deny. I will acknowledge you really applied yourself while you've been incarcerated, but I still see a lack of acceptance for what you did and the impact it had on your children. My vote today, based on the opposition that we have in the record and that which we have heard from today, is to deny your parole. Good luck to you, ma'am.
Thank you.
That concludes our business at the women's prison. We're going to sign off at 10:16. Thank you, Warden.
All right, thank y'all.
In the final moments, the district attorney strongly opposed parole, arguing that Littlefield still refused full accountability. He emphasized that accepting responsibility means acknowledging the children's full testimony, not just parts of it. The board members reflected on the severity of the crimes, the lasting psychological damage, and the tragic outcome for one victim. While they acknowledged her educational efforts and clean prison record, they questioned whether true remorse had been demonstrated. Ultimately, citing the nature of the offenses, victim opposition, and law enforcement objections, the panel voted unanimously to deny parole. The hearing ended with a firm decision. The sentence would stand, and Michelle Littlefield would remain incarcerated.